Welcome back to the Play-by-Play podcast. This is the second edition of the podcast 2025 NBA Mock Draft, where today we're going to be doing a little bit of a hypothetical today. We are going to be saying what would happen if the San Antonio Spurs decided to package their first-round draft picks to go out and make a trade with the Milwaukee Bucks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. This has been one of the most widely and biggest talked proposed trades for this current draft, seeing as the Spurs have so much value. The Bucks franchise seems to be coming towards its end as it is beginning to grow older. There seems to be some distress with Giannis in Milwaukee, as there has been building up over the past couple of years. And the Spurs are the team that look to be one or two pieces from being a serious playoff contender, and the type of length and defense that they could get out of a Giannis-Wemby combo would be absolutely incredible. But before we start with the lottery mock draft real quick, I just want to, first of all, thank you guys for your support on the podcast. Your guys' support on the last mock draft was the highest viewed episode ever on the channel. It means the absolute world for me. So let's go ahead. Let's keep that up. Let's try to match, if not exceed, that view total from last time. I believe it's at 1.5 thousand views at the time of recording this episode. And also go down below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like, comment, anything that you like, dislike. Make sure to share with your friends. And like always, I'm always going to offer you, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. On all of those, you will get to know whenever the podcast uploads, and you will also get to see my latest reactions to breaking news within the NFL and the NBA. With the NBA Finals coming up, with the NBA offseason coming up, with training camp starting to happen within the NFL, it is going to be a very, very busy summer, so I'm going to be posting a lot on there. Now, without further ado, guys, I don't think I have any more to say. Let's go ahead and hop into this. So, before I go forward with the draft and the mock trade, I just want to tell you guys one thing that is important when doing this mock draft simulator. And that is, I am not going to have any control of who the Milwaukee Bucks pick at number 2 overall. I want to caution that, and you'll see what happens once I make the trade. It'll do a little auto pick thing. But in order to use this simulator, which has been created by ProFootballNetwork.com, shout out to them, I cannot take control of the Bucks, because if I take control of two teams I want to trade with, I'm not allowed to make a trade. I know it's a little bit weird, it's a little bit funky, and I would like to personally make the pick myself, but I think it's also going to allow us to really, be in the shoes of the other 12 teams that are behind the number 2 overall pick and get to work around really where they go. So it's going to be interesting. It's kind of random. It's normally between two players. I'll get to that once we get to the trade, but we'll go ahead and see who Milwaukee takes there. But first of all, you have to start at the beginning, and that is with the Dallas Mavericks going number 1 overall with the consensus number 1 overall pick. That is Cooper Flagg. We talked about this a lot in the last mock draft. Just a complete transitional prospect here for Dallas, really transitioning through eras here for the Dallas Mavericks. Cooper Flagg is somebody that is going to really allow them to help allow them to compete right now. He's going to add great length and rim protection alongside guys like Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively. But he's also shown some shooting prowess in his ability to score on the offensive end as well, which is going to help when you have, an aging Klay Thompson, an injury-prone Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving coming off of a torn ACL. So Cooper is going to have a really big-time opportunity within this Dallas Mavericks offense to really cement himself as a top scoring option for them. Could this potentially be a pick that is traded as well, possibly for Giannis Antetokounmpo? I think so. But I think that Dallas really needs to work with the youth here. I wouldn't put anything past Nico Harrison, to be honest. But to be honest, the value here with Flagg is just so great. And getting this lucky to have the number 1 overall pick, I don't think is something that you can deny. So we move to number 2 with the San Antonio Spurs, where we can now attempt the trade. So the trade that we're going to go ahead and make, and it is going to pop up right here. So we're going to be trading Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and 5 first-round picks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, keep in mind that 2 of those first-round picks are going to be pick 2 and 14. And I also want to put into consideration that I'm not sure if that trade is 100% to go through in real life, just simply because I'm not sure how things work as far as the Stepien rule with trading consecutive picks in consecutive years. So if not the picks that you see on the screen, they could definitely be picks such as, the pick that San Antonio got from the Rob Dillingham trade last year and last year's draft from Minnesota and whatnot like that. But that's pretty much what I feel is going to be the offer there for Milwaukee. You're going to see they're obviously going to accept it. And once we click resume draft, we're going to go ahead and see who Milwaukee takes. And they're going to go ahead and take Dylan Harper. Okay, that is very interesting because previously what had happened was I've obviously done this a couple of times just to see how this really works. And previously they had taken Ace Bailey a ton, which I thought, made a little bit of sense, the potential replacement for Giannis at that 3 hole, but they end up taking Dylan Harper. And now with Dylan Harper, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, you now have a young 1-2-3 punch that has some real offensive potential. I've always had really, really high belief in Keldon Johnson. I think that he's really solid in that two-way area. He has some ability to shoot the three. And you still have solid veterans like guys like Pat Connaughton coming off the bench. You have, I believe Bobby Portis is still there, Brook Lopez and whatnot. So Milwaukee is now able to flip this. And this is without, potentially also flipping Damian Lillard as well. Who knows what the value that is going to have for Lillard in the market coming off of a torn Achilles. But there's the potential there, and then you plug in Dylan Harper at your starting point guard. This is obviously the best value pick. It's the automatic 1-2 in most drafts. Previously, they had gone for Ace Bailey, but I think this is a really solid pick as well, and I think that they could really go either way. Milwaukee really can. So this leads us to Philly at 3, and I think that this is where Bailey goes. I think that there's a couple of different ways that the Sixers could really go with it, just because they're so full off the board. But I think that guard, they're just too stacked at guard right now, especially with the young duo sort of prospering right now with Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey. You hope McCain's doing well coming off of that injury. You obviously don't want to move on from Joel Embiid, but do you potentially look for maybe Joel Embiid in replacement, maybe somebody to come and play behind him, somebody like a Derek Queen who, offensively handles the basketball really well, plays outside on the perimeter really well. Kaman Maluak, maybe somebody who, is a little bit more one-dimensional on the offensive end than Queen is, but is probably a lot better defensively, especially down low on the block. Maybe you look towards something like that. Maybe you look towards a 4 to potentially play next to Joel Embiid, like a Colin Murray Boyles, somebody who is really, really solid from the defensive side, would allow Joel Embiid to stretch out past the perimeter a lot more while Boyles plays more on the block. Maybe even just like a Trey Johnson, who is that stereotypical 6'6" shooting guard wing, but is able to, go out and score from all 3 levels and has great length on his side as well. But I think Bailey, with his offensive potential, his ability to make tough shots, I think he's somebody that if he can sit behind Paul George for a year or even start over him if George, is having to deal with consistent injury again like he did this previous season, is definitely somebody that can go ahead and plug in. I think that there's a lot of help that he can get on the defensive side, but I think that you also have players in place like Joel Embiid to go ahead and cover that up. And he'll obviously, hopefully begin to develop his athleticism and his ability to move his feet laterally on the perimeter. Then you move to Charlotte at number 4. I'm not sure why their logo is not popping up. And this is another really interesting pick because, again, you can kind of go in a lot of different directions. I've also considered center at this pick just simply because they've showed a want to move on from Mark Williams with the attempted Dalton Connect trade. And obviously Williams has had some injury history in the past. But I still am going to go with the stereotypical 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 4 especially going VJ Edgecombe. I just think that the fit is way too clean here. He reminds me so much of Victor Oladipo, and I know that I've said that over and over, but just with the athleticism, his ability to just continuously attack the basket, his vertical leap, his ability to move his feet on the defensive side, even negatives like maybe is a little bit lack of shooting from the outer end, just stuff like that really does remind me of Indiana Victor Oladipo, and having him, having LaMelo Ball, having Brandon Miller, Mark Williams potentially, you have younger guys coming off the bench like Josh Green, Grant Williams, and whatnot that could fold into that starting lineup. You're really starting to build that underrated young core. And I think that Edgecombe also, I think he offers a little bit more defensively than Trey Johnson does right away. And I think that does well for covering up where LaMelo Ball goes wrong within his game. I could also, once again, potentially look at center, maybe like a Maluak, bring in a defensive monster and just somebody who could purely go out of the pick and roll with Melo. But VJ Edgecombe sets in there at number 4. Then you have the Utah Jazz at number 5. Last time I had them going Derek Queen. I just felt like their guard depth was a little bit too much. You guys, had your opinions toward that. You guys liked it. Some of you guys didn't like it. And this, I'm going to try to go a little bit of a different direction just so we're not 100% like the last mock draft. But I also think that this is a little bit of a change because we've been hearing, that there has been some lack of confidence on the side of the Utah Jazz when pertaining to Keontae George, that he's potentially going to be taking more of a bench role on the bench of the Utah Jazz. If you take a look at the Tankathon website, they have Jeremiah Fears going number 5. CBS, Gary Parrish has Ace Bailey falling to 5. I don't think that that's really. I mean, maybe that's possible, but maybe not. Concanopoulos, so still that small forward shooting guard combo type guy. I believe those are the only 2 guys on CBS right now that have. Oh no, there's more. I apologize. I scrolled all the way down. VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, and whatnot. So the CBS has some guys potentially falling. I kind of do like the Jeremiah Fierce pick, but they have George, they have Isaiah Collier, they have Colin Sexton. I think that you need to get yourself more of a prototypical number two guard, and I think that's Trey Johnson. Like I said, the 3-level scoring that he can really offer is amazing. I think that this allows them to move guys like Cody Williams potentially to more of their natural 3-ball type spot at that small forward position, so Trey can plug in right away. I think that the defense would definitely be solid. I do, kind of dislike a little bit of Johnson's lack of athleticism sometimes, maybe his lack of effort, but the offense is there, the efficiency is there, especially on what was not a great Texas team whatsoever. He still was able to outshine and become, a top 5, top 4, potentially arguably a top 3 prospect within this draft. And now you have, Keontae George, Colin Sexton, Trey Johnson. You have Laura Markkinen in there, Walker Kessler and whatnot. Again, some of these lower teams, even the ones that got snubbed a little bit within the draft lottery, starting to really build that young core like Johnson there. Number 6 with the Washington Wizards. I'm going to stick with my pick here. I know that there was a little bit of negative feedback for the Concanopoulos pick to the Washington Wizards, and I get that because they've had a lot of similar small forward type play styles to Knoble and guys that could fill in the small forward spot like Chris Middleton, like Sadiq Bey. But I think that you really need to get a young guy in there, especially with Chris Middleton, obviously beginning to decline in age. And Knoble is somebody who's just a bridge. He can play anywhere. He can play shooting guard. He can play small forward. He can play power forward potentially with his height. He has great athleticism. He has a solid handle. He doesn't lose the ball a lot. Obviously a really, really great shooter. And I think, some of the people that are looking for them to maybe go in the big territory, maybe a Derek Queen, maybe a Colin Murray Boyles and whatsoever. I think that with the lack of offense that Alex Sarr has really presented to the table in Washington so far, obviously you're going to hope that he develops. But what he has shown you so far, I think he fits a lot better at that center position, being able to use his athleticism, beating slower centers off the dribble from the perimeter, but also working at his more one-dimensional game on the block and being able to just score easy layups and lob dunks. And Knoble just gives you a lot more versatility there. If you get a guy like Queen, if you get a guy like Maluak, you're potentially flirting with putting Sarr at the power forward position, where I think that a lot of people are going to be able to catch up to him athletically. They're going to be able to guard him a lot better on the perimeter and be able to push him to more uncomfortable positions. This way you can play him at the 5. I think that's a lot cleaner fit. You have Knoble there. You have guys like Bob Carrington, Jordan Poole, and whatnot. You're starting to really get some solid offense. And I think that Knoble gives what Washington has been missing, which is, that consistency, that efficiency from, places like the 3-point line and whatnot. Then you go to the New Orleans Pelicans at number 7. Again, another real pivot pick because I think that they could go in a multitude of different directions, seeing as DeJounte Murray was injured, seeing as, Zion Williamson got in trouble is potentially getting in trouble with the law very, very soon with I believe it was the lawsuit that came out against them. Do not quote me on that. Especially with them potentially doing another fire sale with trading away guys like Trey Murphy and Herb Jones at the trade line this following year. You kind of want to look to the guy that you want to usher in a new era with. And right now, I think the only young guy that is really safe on their team is maybe a guy like Yves Misi at that center position, who's a really, really solid center. And because of that, I think that you need to get your point guard of the future, and that's why I like Jeremiah Fears here. It's sad for the Brooklyn Nets because I think that they would really love somebody like Fears at that point guard position to just explode offensively. But I think what you get with Fears here is somebody who is just a dog, again, just a natural scorer. Needs to work on his efficiency a little bit, needs to work on himself defensively, But overall, I mean, him and Messi in the pick and roll could potentially be deadly. Him going downhill and attacking guys could potentially be deadly. Who did CBS have them going with? Constantinople here, Jeremiah Fears here. At this range in the draft, the concerns over Fears boom or bust will be enough for one team to take the plunge. I agree with that. His electric factor with the ball in his hands, you can run an offense, get downhill, and no one in the class has more command of the ball handler as him. I definitely agree with that. And the thing was, he wasn't, as inconsistent as many people think. 43.4%, that's not terrible. Could definitely be better, but that's not awful from the field for, a young kid in college, right, and coming right into the NBA. So I think that this just gives New Orleans the best chance to explode offensively, and it gives them the best chance to savor something if they have to completely flip it. And this is a guy that you could potentially build around with his offensive prowess. Now that sucks for the Brooklyn Nets because they were hoping possibly to get Jeremiah Fears, and now they're without him. But they still have some solid prospects on the board. I'm just not sure how cleanly a lot of these prospects really fit with what they have, especially pertaining to the fact that there are two top bigs on the board, both Maliwalk and Derek Queen, and they have Nick Claxton. But Claxton has also been in trade rumors over the past couple of years. It seems like every single cycle, Nick Claxton is within trade rumors. You have potentially maybe a point guard like a Jace Richardson who gives you a lot offensively. Igor Denman, who maybe is a little bit more of a playmaker. Even Kasper's Jack Junis, who brings a little bit more playmaking to the side, but you really just don't have anyone to really run with him within the pick and roll, and there's inconsistencies there. Just purely for the value and the guy that I think could best fit next to Nick Claxton, I think that's Derek Queen. I think that he's somebody who is a lot more versatile at that power forward position. Again, I think it's very difficult to find a big man who can handle the rock like Derek Queen does and can do what he does from the perimeter, being able to beat guys off the dribble and whatnot. And Claxton's a little bit more one-dimensional on that block and whatnot, so this could definitely allow them to spread the floor a little bit. You got D'Angelo Russell back from the Los Angeles Lakers, so maybe you can get some offense there. They're still going to need some obviously some offseason additions to really build it. But the good thing also is if you trade Claxton, if you get rid of him, you're able to plug him in, right away as well. And you still have guys like Cam Johnson. You still have Noah Clowney and whatnot. You still have some really solid young guys that just need to realize their potential. Queen's maybe somebody that is a little bit of an energy and hype man that could get you going. He's offensively very solid, very versatile. Play at the 4 or 5. I think that this is the cleanest fit and probably the best value for them right here. Toronto Raptors at 9. We went Kaman Maluwak in the last draft, and that's where I'm going to go with this pick as well. Tankathon has Maluwak going at number 9. You also have CBS, both Cameron and Gary Parrish going Maluwak at 9. You work down here, Derek Queen, Colin Maluwak. I think that center is just the biggest need for them right now, and especially to get somebody next to Scotty Barnes who can be well defensively, especially getting somebody with Emmanuel quickly. Again, quickly, very similar to Jeremiah Fears, in my opinion, who's somebody who, yes, has improved from the perimeter, has improved his three-point game, but is also somebody that can get out of that pick and roll, get downhill really quick with his speed, and just be able to attack the basket. RJ Barrett's in there. You have Brandon Ingram and whatnot. I mean, you have enough offense on this team that you don't need particularly a Derek Queen at the center position to really give you more on offense. Sure, you would love Queen, and if Maluwak ends up going at 8 and Queen ends up going at 9, you would enjoy that as well. But I think that Maluwak, serves you more defensively. He is that anchor in the paint. He is a solid rim protector, has good height, has good athleticism. Again, a little bit one-dimensional when it comes to his offensive game, but I think that it fits the personnel that you have overall right now. Houston Rockets at number 10. This was the pick that I felt the least confident about. I went with Liam McNeely in the last episode. It admittedly was a pretty big reach. I'll be completely honest. It was a pretty big reach. And it was really trying to just get somebody who is really solid at shooting because I think that's what they lack the most. If we look at Tankathon, they have them going Murray Boyles. I mean, if you're not going with a shooter, I would definitely like them to go with a big man because that's definitely a bigger need. They have so many guards, so many wings right now. Carter Bryant, Kasparis, I like Jack Junis, but I just don't feel like he was good enough from the three-point line, and they just have so many guards. And also he needs the ball in his hand, and there are so many other players on Houston's side that needs the ball in their hands as well. Igor, again, he's more of a playmaker. I like the Jace Richardson pick because he was one of the best from the 3-point line. Um, but I just don't know. Watch, let's look at Jace Richardson. I believe he shot like 43%, 41% from the 3-point line. He was solid. Another guy that I potentially looked at is Nick Clifford, 37% from three. That would just give them the most versatility potentially. I like Jace. I like Clifford. I like Carter Bryant potentially, but I think that he offers a little bit more defense than offense. This is probably the toughest one of them all, guys. I'm going to go with Nick Clifford. I think that that's going to be a little bit of a hot take, but I picked Liam McNeely last time. I was potentially going to pick Jace Richardson. And I think that this is honestly a pick that Houston either has to move out of or they're going to have to get a reach. And Clifford is somebody that if he stays in the draft is going to have a lot of day one experience. He's somebody that could plug in day one for you and play well. He's solid everywhere. He's not really a standout anywhere, but he's a solid 3-point shooter. He works solid on the block. He's a great defender and whatnot, which works well. I think that that's something that they were lacking as well, especially with guys like Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr. I think that Clifford is really solid. I think that he could be a potential riser. I know that he's ranked at 22, but I've seen some draft classes where he goes, around 15, around 16 and whatnot. So top 10, does it sound a little bit insane? Yes, I understand that. But Houston's kind of that team that, you get another top pick, you kind of have to go for the more experienced, just the guy that fits right now than more of the upside, right? Because if we're going just purely off upside, I mean, again, there's Boyles, there's Newell, there's Jack Junis, there's Demon or Demon. Let me know how you guys say Igor Demon's name. I think it's Demon. You have Cam Jones, you have Carter Bryant, like you have a lot, Hugo Gonzalez, who, Danny Wolf and whatnot. You have guys who have a lot more upside, but you're the Rockets. You were the 2 seed this past year. Were they the 2 seed? No, they were the 3 seed. They were the 3 seed, I believe. I could be wrong. They were the 2 or the 3 seed. I believe they were the 2 seed. They were the 2 seed. Sorry, guys. It's been a long weekend. I traveled a lot to Las Cruces to move into a new apartment, so I'm very, very tired. My mind is not working correctly. But they were a top 4 seed in the West. You need to start making jumps. You need to start getting veteran presence in there. And Clifford is someone that the number 10 pick can offer you the most there. Portland Trailblazers at 11. I've talked about this a million times. I think it has to be a power forward. Boyles, Newell. I'm going to go with Boyles. I think that you could flip them either way. You have to get somebody that plays next to Donovan Clingan, and that you could also work in with the multitude of guards that you have. Simon Scoot Henderson, as well as Shaden Sharp. I think that Boyles offers you a lot, not just defensively, but the man averaged 19.8 points per game. He basically averaged a double-double and was, solid defensively when it came to his statistics as well. Nearly 2 blocks and 2 steals per game. Newell's comparable. I just think that Boyles is a little bit more consistent. He comes out as a sophomore. The turnovers are a little bit of a problem. And, of course, he's not, really big time from the 3-point line, which is a little bit where Portland struggles. But, that's the best bang for your buck right there. And I think the power forward is the biggest time need for them. Chicago Bulls at 12. I kind of want to go in a different direction with this. I gave them Kasparis in the last episode. I'm questioning where I go now. And this is a tough pick for Chicago. Because, again, you kind of have these middle-of-the-pack guys like Newell. Both of the top centers are off the board. Ideally for Chicago, you're hoping that Malawak or Queen fall to you. You could potentially reach maybe like a Jace Richardson, Liam McNeely. Cam Jones is very, very interesting to me. Carter Bryant as well, just with his upside. But I just feel like Chicago needs more offense. CBS has Derek Queen, Rasheer Fleming, Colin Murray Boyles, Common Malawak. What do they say here? Long, very smart, and impactful on both ends of the floor. There are talks about them trading away. See, Nick Clifford at 15. There are talks about them trading away Nikola Vucevic, so center could definitely be in play. I like Bryant, but he's just not as big of an impact as I would like. He's just not as big of an impact as I would really like. What do we have down here? Queen, Fleming. Tankathon has Derek Queen falling. Really, I've never seen Tankathon tank Derek Queen that much. My Lord and Savior Derek Queen. Love Derek Queen. Pause. Um, it just doesn't feel right that Caspers falls this far, but I really think that he could. I'm gonna go Carter Bryant. Um, Again, it's a little bit of a reach. I think that Clifford and Bryant are picked a little bit higher than maybe they should be. But Chicago has been a team that hasn't drafted well in previous years. And I think that you need to pick a prospect that is a sure thing, that can just give you production right away. I'm not saying that Kasparis can't do that, but he's playing behind Gideon White. His role is already pretty much filled in with what Giddy has, which is this, pick and roll playmaking, European style type guard. And Bryant just gives you a solid wing. He could fill in at the 4 for Pat Williams. He could fill in at the 3 potentially. I know that you have Matas, which you want to develop him as well. He gives you solid 3-point shooting. He gives you good defense. He has a ton of upside on his side. The dude can develop a lot. And at 12, you kind of just need to get out of this dry spot that they've been in for so many years. And you need to get somebody who's going to upgrade your team immediately. That or somebody that you can just purely develop. And I think that Bryant does both. I think that he has, numbers that could be justified for him plugging in right away. I think that there have also been moments where you say, hey, he needs to develop his game a little bit. He's a little bit raw. And I think both of those really, really play into the Bulls' favor. Then you have Atlanta at 13. This is going to be our final pick of the draft because Milwaukee is going to have control at 14. I'm interested if I don't pick Caspers, which I'm probably not with the Hawks because that's not a clean fit, if Milwaukee will pick him at 14. I'm going to pick Austin Newell for the Bucks. They did go Caspers at 14. I'm not 100% sure how realistic that really is, especially if they go Dylan Harper at 2. I could see a world where they go Ace Bailey at 2 and then maybe Caspers at 14. That could be interesting. I'm not sure if they go 2 guards within the top 14 if that deal ends up happening. I could potentially see Milwaukee going for, maybe of a two-guard player like maybe a Jace Richardson or a Liam McNeely at forward and whatnot, but they end up going Caspers. Not a lot to really discuss there. But back to Austin Newell, I had this pick also in my last draft. I think that him and Boyles have pretty two similar destinations. I think that you see them going between 11, 12, and 13 a lot of the time. Between 10, 11, 12, and 13. This 4-pick range, Houston, Portland, Chicago, and Atlanta is where you see them getting picked the most. And I think it makes the most sense because that's where they are the weakest, where each of these teams are the weakest, which is really at that 4 position. Especially for Atlanta, being able to have somebody that plays next to Clint Capella would be really handy. He has some really solid athleticism, some really great length. You have enough offense with Reese Shea and Trae Young, but you need to do the best that you can to cover up Trae Young not being able to play defense. And so I think that because of that, Newell does a really great job there. He still offers you 20 points per game. He's solid, and I think that creates a pretty dang good starting lineup, especially adding into guys like Jalen Johnson and whatnot, who we haven't even discussed. I mean, the length on the Hawks would be ridiculous and would turn them into a solid defense minus Trae Young, right? So I think that would be really good there. So that's the mock draft. A lot different than it was last time. A few changes, especially with this trade, which makes it fun. It actually makes you feel like that trade really did something and that these guys are really, starting to move and whatnot. Top 4 or 5 or top 6, I believe. Top 7 were pretty much the same. I think the only changes was Trey Johnson at 5. Last time we picked Derek Queen. But I believe I had Knoepel and Fears going to New Orleans. Fears might have fallen to the Nets. I'm not 100% sure. I had Maluwa going at 9. Queen was still within that top 8-ish. I had Boyles and Austin Newell going there. The 2 big changes were Clifford and Carter Bryant coming into there. Again, those picks are going to be probably my most watched, to be honest, because I think that those 2 teams, they can go in any direction. They need specific skill sets, especially Houston. They just need shooting, man. They need so much shooting. And so I think that they might, really have to go out and reach for a big-time shooter. Like I said, Clifford, Richardson, McNeely, those type of guys, they're going to have to go out and want to get one of those guys within the top 10 or trade out they could definitely trade out, maybe into the late teens, like 18, 19 with Brooklyn and Washington and whatnot. So maybe that's another topic for another episode. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think that a Milwaukee San Antonio Spurs trade is actually possible? What do you think that would do to the draft? Who do you think that Milwaukee would potentially take with the 2 and 14 pick? And what do you think about this mock draft? What did you like? What did you not like? What would you do differently? Who was your favorite pick? Who was your least favorite pick? Who was your most surprising pick? Leave all of that down below, guys. Let me know. Thank you guys for tuning into today's episode. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, like always, go down, comment down below, leave a like, subscribe, do it all, share with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. We're having a hell of a lot of fun over there during the summer. There's going to be a lot of posts coming through on those social medias, so go ahead and follow it up. And like I said before, I thank you guys so much for your support. That's all from me today. I will see you guys on next one. Peace.